Today's Monster Through the Ages video is going to actually be about hobgoblins, something I had intended to do after I finished the skeleton video, but actually completed the ogres one first. I'm going to start this one off with a little excerpt from Dragon Magazine number 63, which came back in July 1982. It's about the hobgoblins in general, and then I'm going to go over the Rules Cyclopedia version, the first edition version, the second edition version, the third edition version, and the 5th edition version as usual. So back in July of 1982, this guy named Roger Moore wrote this article on humanoids, and one of those humanoids he wrote about was hobgoblins. Now, Roger Moore also ends up being the editor of Dragon Magazine, the editor of Dungeon Magazine, and he would go on to write the Greyhawk books, Return of the Eight, and The Adventure Begins. So, in this article, the section where he has hobgoblins, he goes on to write the following. The hobgoblins, unlike their close kin the goblins, make little pretense of trying to get along well with other humanoids, even with other hobgoblin tribes. Intertribal rivalry is intense, only marginally less so than those between Orcish tribes. Hobgoblin tribal factions are strictly organized along political lines, however, as opposed to the Orcish tribe's religious divisions. Hobgoblins value status and power, and settle easily into a domineering role as warriors, conquerors, and rulers. More so than kobolds, orcs, or goblins, they represent being ruled by beings not of their own race, but they will still show a fair degree of obedience and organization in such situations. Hobgoblins perceive life as a constant testing ground, one's personal worth being measured by the amount of pain one can tolerate and met out to other creatures. Their deity, Namagaya, is sometimes referred to as the torturer, a master in the art of inflicting pain, and a deity who never shows the slightest expression even when wounded himself. Hobgoblin chieftains and shamans must undergo ritual torture to determine if they are worthy of their posts. Trials by torture, to determine which party can withstand the most pain, thus proving the rightness of the one's case, are quite common in the hobgoblin judicial system. Hobgoblin culture generally encourages a lifelong rejection of emotional displays in keeping with the proper attitude of a warrior race. But on a personal level, the average non-leader hobgoblin will sometimes show his or her feelings, though usually only when alone or when it is believed no one else is looking. The only socially acceptable circumstances for a show of feelings are those times when two or more rival tribes of hobgoblins get sight of each other and engage in jeering insults and catcalls in an attempt to provoke each other into a more violent confrontation. Encounters with non-hobgoblin races are also marked at times by hobgoblins' remarks and gestures of disgust, anger, or derision. However, hobgoblins are careful to show no other sort of emotion in the sight of humans and demi-humans, except for complete disdain and a desire to kill or enslave the enemies as soon as possible. Shamans and witch doctors of the hobgoblins only rarely use curative spells, preferring the harmful versions of those incantations. Within their communities, these priests serve as judicial authorities, administering torture when required by the laws, and also work as advisors to colony chieftains. They are the enforcers of public ritual and ceremony, ensuring that their tribe maintains the proper degree of lawfulness and obedience to authority, and of course they conduct all the appropriate religious ceremonies. Shamans devoted and Maglibiot help coordinate dealings with goblins which hobgoblins dislike as weaklings but grudgingly recognize as allies, and also take charge of joint goblin-hobgoblin ceremonies. It seems that much of the dislike hobgoblins have for elves comes from the latter's heretical, emotional displays as well as the elves' diametrically opposed alignment. Hobgoblin shamans emphasize the revolting, unwarrior-like aspects of elven life as often as they can, and preach about what a shame it is that elves should be allowed to run loose like they do. Dwarves, and to a lesser degree, gnomes, despised as they are because of their innate goodness, manage to retain at least a glimmer of the hobgoblin's version of respect. At least they demonstrate the proper attitude of a warrior, thanks to their lawful nature, the dour dwarves especially so. So, according to this article, hobgoblins are pretty much a tribalistic, organized race that doesn't really like other races, and they don't hide it. They especially dislike races that are opulent. Is that the right word? Decadent. There we go. They definitely do not like races that they view as decadent, such as the elves. They're like some form of fantasy version of Spartans, I guess. Alright, up first is going to be the Rules Cyclopedia version of the Hobgoblin. The Rules Cyclopedia version has an AC of 6, which is the equivalent of AC 14 in 5th edition. Has 1 attack, it's damaged by weapon, has a THAC0 of 18, which is sort of like a +2. Saves as a fighter 1, has a encounter movement speed of 30 feet, and has a HP of 2 to 9, which is 1d8 plus 1. For descriptive text, the Rules Cyclopedia has it that hobgoblins are a common encounter that can be located in caverns, hills, mountains, or woods. They are relatives to goblins, but are bigger and meaner. They live underground in caves and dungeons, but often hunt outdoors in rough, rugged wastelands and wilderness, having no penalties in daylight. A hobgoblin king and 1d4 bodyguards live in the hobgoblin lair. The king has 22 hit points and fights as a 5 hit dice monster, gaining a bonus of +2 on damage rolls. The bodyguards all fight as 4 hit dice monsters and have 3d6 hit points each. As long as their king is alive and with them, hobgoblin morale is 10. A hobgoblin king might have 1 or more thools in his bodyguard as well. There can be hobgoblin spellcasters. And it should be noted that according to the book, this version of Hobgoblin does not come with infravision. However, every other edition of the game, to include the Holmes and BX basic sets, hobgoblins have infravision. This may be an oversight, or it may be just Menser letting you make your own decisions on what your hobgoblin should be able to do. It does say specifically in the rules, in the descriptor, that they are related to goblins, and they do not get the negative from being in daylight, which may insinuate that they do have infravision. If you do give them infravision, I would make it about infravision at 60 feet. Now, for the first edition version of the Hobgoblin comes with AC 5, 1 attack, does damage 1 to 8 or by weapon, a THAC0 of 18, saves as a fighter 1, movement is 9 inches, which translates into basic and 5th edition versions of 30 feet encounter speed and 90 foot run movement, and HP of 2 to 9 or 1d8 plus 1 hit points, and does come with infravision and specifically says no daylight sensitivity. For the descriptors, it says that tribal bands of hobgoblins are likely to be encountered nearly anywhere, as these creatures are equally at home in sunlight or subterranean settings. They fight well in full daylight and have infravision to 60 feet, so as to be able to fight in total darkness as well. Each tribe is jealous of its status, and if 2 tribal bands of hobgoblins meet, there will be at least catcalls and derision, 85% chance, and open fighting might break out, 15% chance, unless a strong leader such as a powerful monster or fighter or evil high priest, etc., is on hand to control them. Similarly, the hobgoblins will bully nearby orcs or goblins given the opportunity, and hobgoblin leaders are sometimes used in bodies of goblins or orcish troops to keep them in order to drive them into battle. The better known, or more infamous, hobgoblin tribes include the Rippers, the Leg Breakers, the Skull Smashers, the Flesh Renders, Marrow Suckers, Flayers, and Slow Killers. For every 20 hobgoblins in the group, there is a leader, called a sergeant, and 2 assistants. These hobgoblins will have 9 hit points each. If 100 or more hobgoblins are encountered, there will be the following additional figures with the group. A sub-chief, armor class 3, with 16 hit points, and has 1 attack at +2 damage. The sergeant and the sub-chief fight as 3 hit die monsters. If hobgoblins are encountered in their lair, there will also be, in addition, a chief and 5 to 20 bodyguards. Hobgoblin chiefs are armor class 2 with 22 hit points and do 2 to 11 points of damage. So that's 1d10 plus 1, and fight as 4 hit dice monsters. Their bodyguards are the same as those of the sub-chiefs. There are females and young in the lair equal to 150% and 300% respectively of the number of males. Hobgoblin lairs are underground 80% of the time and above ground 20% of the time. In the latter case, a lair will be a village with a ditch, rampart, and palisades of stone, earth, and logs. There will also be 2 gates and 3 to 6 guard towers. The dwellings inside are usually a mixture of wood and stone. As they seek to build on the ruins of human or other more sophisticated creatures, a hobgoblin village may be of better construction than indicated, possibly having a solid stone works, buildings, or a keep. In any event, hobgoblins will have 2 heavy catapults, 2 light catapults, and 1 ballista per 50 warriors. If the lair is underground, there is a 60% chance there will be 2 to 12 carnivorous apes as guards. What comes after this is actually a list of equipment that hobgoblins are usually equipped with for weapons: sword and composite bow, sword and spear, sword and morningstar, sword and whip, pole arms, spear, and morningstar. It says that leaders will always bear 2 weapons. The tribal standard will be with a sub-chief 20% of the time. It is always present with the chief. The tribal standard causes hobgoblin warriors within 6 inches to fight harder, thus giving them +1 on their attack rolls and +1 on morale checks. If elves are nearby, hobgoblins will attack them in preference to any other troops because of the great hatred they bear towards them. Hobgoblins are highly adept at mining, and they will detect new construction, sloping passages, and even shifting walls 40% of the time. Most hobgoblins speak Goblin, Orcish, and the rudimentary tongue of carnivorous apes in addition to their racial and alignment languages. 20% of hobgoblins can speak the common tongue as well. For physical description, they are described as: the hairy hides of hobgoblins range from dark reddish-brown to gray-black. Their faces are bright red-orange to red. Large males will have blue-red noses. Eyes are either yellowish or dark brown. Teeth are yellowed white or dirty yellow. Hobgoblins favor bright, bloody colors and black leather. They keep their weapons well polished. Hobgoblins live for up to 60 years. The 2nd edition version of the hobgoblin is almost exactly the same. And with an armor class of 5, 1 attack, damage by weapon, a THAC0 of 19, it saves as a fighter 1, has a movement of 9 inches as previous, and an HP of 2 to 9, or 1d8 plus 1. It also comes with infravision at 60 feet. For the descriptive text, it says that hobgoblins are a fierce humanoid race that wage a perpetual war with other humanoid races. They are intelligent, organized, and aggressive. Typical hobgoblin is a burly humanoid standing at 6.5 feet tall. Their hairy hides range from dark reddish-brown to dark gray. Their faces show dark red or red-orange skin. Large males have blue or red noses. Hobgoblin eyes are either yellowish or dark brown, while their teeth are yellow. Their garments tend to be brightly colored, often bold, blood red. Any leather is always tinted black. Hobgoblin weaponry is kept polished and repaired. Hobgoblins have their own language and often speak with orcs, goblins, and carnivorous apes. Roughly 20% of them can speak the common tongue of man. In combat, hobgoblins will be typically equipped with polearms, morning stars, swords and bows, spears, swords and spears, swords and morning stars, or swords and whips. Hobgoblins fight equally well in bright light or virtual darkness, having infravision with a range of 60 feet. Hobgoblins hate elves and always will attack them first. For their habitat in society, hobgoblins are nightmarish mockeries of the humanoid races who have a military society organized in tribal bands. Each tribe is intensely jealous of its status. Chance meetings with other tribes result in verbal abuse, 85%, or open fighting, 15%. Hobgoblin tribes are found in almost any climate or subterranean realm. A typical tribe of hobgoblins will have between 20 and 200, or 2d10 times 10, adult male warriors. In addition, for every 20 male hobgoblins, there will be a leader, known as a sergeant, and 2 assistants. These have 9 hit points each, but still fight as 1+1 hit die monsters. Groups numbering over 100 are led by a sub-chief who has 16 hit points and an armor class of 3. The great strength of a sub-chief gives it a +2 on its damage rolls and allows it to fight as a 3 hit die monster. If the hobgoblins are encountered in their lair, they'll be led by a chief with AC 2, 22 hit points, and +3 points of damage per attack, who fights as a 4 hit die monster. The chief has 5 to 20, 5d4, sub-chiefs acting as bodyguards. Leaders and chiefs always carry 2 weapons. Each tribe has a distinctive battle standard which is carried into combat to inspire the troops. If the tribal chief is leading the battle, he will carry the standard with him. Otherwise, it will be held by one of his sub-chiefs. In addition to the warriors present in a hobgoblin tribe, there will be half again that many females and 3 times as many children as adult males. Fully 80% of all known hobgoblin lairs are subterranean complexes. The remaining 20% are surface villages which are fortified with a ditch, fence, 2 gates, and 3 to 6 guard towers. Villages are often built upon ruined humanoid settlements and may incorporate defensive features already present in the ruins. Hobgoblin villages possess artillery in the form of 2 heavy catapults, 2 light catapults, and a ballista for each 50 warriors. Underground complexes may be guarded by 2 to 12 carnivorous apes, 60% chance of that. They are highly adept at mining and can detect new construction, sloping passages, and shifting walls 40% of the time. Hobgoblins feel superior to goblins or orcs and may act as leaders for them. In such cases, the lesser races are used as battle fodder. Hobgoblin mercenaries may work for powerful or rich evil humanoids. Now, for the change to 3rd edition, the rules, the actual gameplay rules may have changed a lot. However, the Hobgoblin did not change Did not change at all. It's got an AC of 15, which is the equivalent to AC 5 in 1st edition, 2nd edition, and BECMI. It's got 1 attack. It does 1d8 points worth of damage. It's got a +1 to hit, which is just THAC0 19. Its movement rate is 30 feet, and it has 1d8 plus 1 hit points. Also has dark vision to 60 feet, which is the replacement for infravision at this edition. The descriptive text is almost the same, but there are some minor changes. Hobgoblins are larger cousins of goblins. They are far more aggressive and organized than their smaller relatives and wage a perpetual war with other humanoids, particularly elves. Hobgoblins are burly humanoids standing 6.5 feet tall. Their hairy hides range in a coloration from dark reddish brown to dark gray, and dark red to red-orange skin. Large males have blue or red noses. Hobgoblin eyes are yellowish or dark brown, while their teeth are yellow. Their garments tend to be brightly colored, often blood red with black-tinted leather. Hobgoblin weaponry is kept polished and in good repair. Hobgoblins speak Goblin and Common. Most hobgoblins encountered outside their homes are warriors. The information, the statistics block, is for one of 1st level. And there was a NPC class called Warrior in 2nd edition, so even though this is the statistics that comes inside the monster manual, you can actually increase it. These creatures have a strong grasp of strategy and tactics and are capable of carrying out sophisticated battle plans. Under the leadership of a skilled strategist or tactician, their discipline can prove a deciding factor. Hobgoblins hate elves and attack them first, in preference to other opponents. For their society, hobgoblins are a military breed. They live for war and believe strongly in strength and martial prowess as the most desirable qualities for individuals and leaders alike. A hobgoblin leader is likely to be the biggest and strongest in the group, maintaining authority by enforcing strict discipline. Hobgoblins are often leaders among tribes of goblins and orcs, whom they bully and treat as inferiors. Hobgoblin mercenaries sometimes enter the service of wealthy, evil humanoids. Hobgoblin society is organized into tribal bands, each intensely jealous of its reputation and status. Meetings between rival bands are likely to erupt in violence if the troops are not restrained. Only an exceptionally powerful leader can force them to cooperate for any length of time. Each band has a distinctive battle standard they carry into combat to inspire, rally, and signal the troops. A hobgoblin gang or band contains twice as many children as adults. Children are non-combatants unless their lairs are threatened directly. These creatures usually lair in places that either boast natural defenses or can be fortified. Cavern complexes, dungeons, ruins, and forests are among their favorites. Typical lair defenses include ditches, fences, gates, guardhouses, guard towers, pit traps, and crude catapults or ballistas. Most hobgoblins revere Maglibiot, who is also the patron deity of goblins. For hobgoblin characters, a hobgoblin's favorite class is fighter, and hobgoblin leaders tend to be fighters or fighter rogues. Hobgoblin clerics worship Maglibiot and can choose 2 of the following domains: evil, destruction, and trickery. Most hobgoblin spellcasters, however, are adepts. Hobgoblin adepts favor spells that deal damage. Last but not least, the edition that causes the most changes to the hobgoblin is the 5th edition version. With an armor class of 18, an attack number of 1, dealing 1d8 damage or 1d8 plus 7 if they have an ally within 5 feet, a 2-hit modifier of plus 3, movement of 30, and HP value of 4 to 18 using 2d8 plus 2 dice. This creature also comes with dark vision. This is the most dangerous version of hobgoblin out of all 5 editions I've gone over. Descriptive text located in the 5th edition monster manual has that war horns sound, stones fly from catapults, and the thunder of 1,000 booted feet echoes across the land as hobgoblins march to battle. Across the borderlands of civilization, settlements and settlers must contend with these aggressive humanoids whose thirst for conquest is never satisfied. Hobgoblins have dark orange to red-orange skin, and hair ranging from dark red-brown to dark gray. Yellow or dark brown eyes peer out beneath their beetling brows, and their wide mouths sport sharp and yellow teeth. A male hobgoblin might have a large blue or red nose, which symbolizes virility and power among goblinkin. Hobgoblins can live as long as humans, though their love for warfare and battle means that few do. Hobgoblins belong to a family of creatures called goblinoids. They are often found lording over their cousins, the smaller goblins and the ferocious bugbears. A hobgoblin measures virtue by physical strength and martial prowess, caring about nothing except for the opportunity to demonstrate skill and cunning in battle. Hobgoblins of high military rank attain their position by force, then hold those positions by imposing their authority through draconian measures. Hobgoblins train to fight with a variety of weapons and have great skill at crafting arms, armor, siege engines, and other military devices. Organized and disciplined, they take exceptional care of their weapons, armor, and personal possessions. They favor the bold colors associated with their tribes and trim their often elaborate uniforms with red piping and leather dyed black. Hobgoblins organize themselves into tribal bands known as legions. In their martial society, every hobgoblin has a rank, from powerful leaders and champions to the rank-and-file foot soldiers, to the goblin that finds themselves driven into the front line at spear point. A legion is headed by a warlord with several captains serving under its command. A hobgoblin warlord is a ruthless tyrant more interested in strategy, victory, glory, reputation, and dominion than leading troops into battle. As loyal and disciplined as hobgoblins are in their own legion, rival legions compete constantly for reputation and status. Meetings between legions erupt in violence if troops aren't restrained, and only exceptionally powerful leaders can force legions to cooperate on the battlefield. Hobgoblins have a strong grasp of tactics and discipline and can carry out sophisticated battle plans under the direction of a strategically minded leader. However, they hate elves and attack them first in battle over any other opponent, even if doing so would be a tactical error. Legions often supplement their ranks with less reliable and more expendable troops, including goblins, bugbears, orcs, evil humans, ogres, and giants. Hobgoblins have a long history of training animals to service. Like the more civilized races, they use oxen and horses to transport goods and weaponry over long distances. They communicate with each other using trained ravens and keep vicious wolves to guard prisoners to protect hobgoblin camps. Hobgoblin cavalry are trained wargs as steeds, in the same way that goblins ride wolves. Some tribes even keep carnivorous apes as fighting beasts. Hobgoblins claim lands with abundant resources, and they can be found in forests and mountains, near mines and humanoid settlements, and anywhere else that wood, metal, and potential slaves can be found. They build and conquer strongholds in strategically advantageous locations, which they then use as staging areas to expand their territory. Hobgoblin warlords never tire of combat, but they don't take up arms lightly. Before they attack, hobgoblins conduct thorough reconnaissance to gauge the strengths and weaknesses of their foes when assaulting a stronghold. They surround it first to cut off escape routes and supply lines, then slowly starve their enemies out. Hobgoblins fortify their own holdings, bolstering existing defenses with innovations of their own. Whether they lair in cavern complexes, dungeons, ruins, or forests, they protect their strongholds with ditches, fences, gates, guard towers, pit traps, and crude catapults or ballista. Hobgoblins worship Mglibiet, the Mighty One, the greater god of goblinoids. As terrifying as this figure is, hobgoblins don't fear death, believing that when they die in battle, their spirits join the honored ranks of Mglibiet's army on the plains of Acheron. So, throughout all the editions that I have just gone over, each of them agree that hobgoblins are a militaristic society. They are extremely disciplined within their own legions, and they are extremely competitive with other legions. They also agree that they can be found in caverns, and if you do find one of their settlements that is located above ground, it is going to be fortified with watchtowers and siege weapons. Now, when I usually run games, I usually have hobgoblins as a distinct society and country outside the realms of man or elves. These guys are way too organized and disciplined, along with advanced, to just be wandering tribes that just sit in hovels waiting for the adventurers to arrive. However, if any of y'all have any different experience with hobgoblins or any tips to give, go ahead and add them in the comments. I appreciate you guys listening, and I hope this video helps someone out there. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.